The first question you need to ask when considering the utility of a source is whether it's relevant. Now, relevance always depends upon the questions we ask. For example, the Bayeux Tapestry is undoubtedly one of the most valuable medieval sources that we have, and despite being a source about warfare in Normandy, it can contribute very little to our understanding of the Normandy D-Day landings in 1944 because it isn't relevant to that later event.
We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall never surrender.
But if I was interested in questions about medieval warfare, then it becomes relevant. If I ask questions about what Norman knights looked like in 1066, then it becomes particularly relevant because such visual sources are so rare. And the Bayeux Tapestry in this respect is particularly valuable. It is therefore the question that makes the source more or less relevant. So the second of our 3R questions is concerned with how revealing the source is. And this does not simply mean how much information the source reveals about the past. It also is concerned with how the knowledge of the past is conveyed and the type of source that is doing the conveying. I therefore like to distinguish between the quantity and the quality of what the source reveals. Quantity is easy to understand. The more information the source contains, the more valuable the source is. For example, the 1932 election results in Germany are useful in helping us explain why Hitler came to power. This table of election results covers all the years of Weimar Germany and provides us with more information than the results of 1932 alone, and is therefore more useful. If we're interested in the evolution of the Nazi vote, we can take this information and plot a graph in which we compare the rise in Nazi support with the rise of unemployment in the Depression. Now, this graph provides more information and even suggests a logical correlation between unemployment and Nazi support. But no amount of richly detailed statistics or carefully constructed graphs can fully help us explain why the people supported the Nazis. For this, we need a different quality of source that can help understand what individuals are thinking, the type of source that helps us begin to empathize and understand human motivation. We know that in the early 1920s, Italian fascists and German Nazis recruited heavily from ex-soldiers who'd been traumatized by the experience and the horrors of the First World War. To begin to understand those horrors, we can review their personal memoirs or the novels and poetry that were produced. Or we can contemplate the visual art. Sometimes what is useful in a source cannot be expressed in words, which is indeed why such visceral sources are so valuable. Of course, we cannot generalize from the highly subjective impressions of individuals. This is the obvious limitation of such sources. But without their empathetic power to move us, our understanding of the past is as superficial as that of a weekending holidaymaker trying to make sense of the culture of a foreign country. The third R question is the one examiners are most interested in, that is, how reliable a source is, whether what the source says can or cannot be trusted. This is a good test of your historical knowledge because to answer it well, you need to reflect on both the content of what the source says, but also on who is saying it. The reliability of an historical source heavily depends on its origin. A consideration of this origin leads us to ask the three little W questions. Who produced the source? When? And where was the source produced? This in turn leads to the big W question of why the source was produced, or what the International Baccalaureate likes to call the purpose of the source.